Joining us now is Senate Intelligence Committee Chair Mark Warner, Democrat of Virginia, of course, who will be at the White House meeting later today. So, Senator, thank you. What do you want to see coming out of this meeting? Time is running out.
As you were lining up, don't you feel like we've all seen this movie before?
Yes.
Like every 6 months it's a rerun.
Right.
I do think we're going to, people can play mischief with the Senate rules. We had a strong vote to go ahead and do the continuing resolution. We get that done hopefully by Thursday, Friday morning. The House can pass it, and we can avoid the stupidity on steroids of another government shutdown. So I've got more than my fingers crossed on that. In terms of the meeting this afternoon, I think the president is bringing bipartisan House and Senate, the security committees. And I think he's going to make the case, at least I hope he makes the case, that the clock is ticking on Ukraine's ability to continue to defend against Vladimir Putin's invasion of their country. And if we don't step up and honor our commitment, that is bad news for America. It's bad news for democracies. It would probably mean the $50 billion that the Europeans have pledged, which is being held up by the Hungarian prime minister, that may be hung up as well. So we've got to get this done, and I think the president will try to make that case.
Now, drilling down on Ukraine, because Jake Sullivan, Secretary Blinken were with Zelensky today, Ambassador Makarova, all in Davos. Zelensky was, talking about a diplomatic initiative and basically not asking for money. Now, I know the Brits have put up a couple of $2 billion in place of the EU, because we in the EU have not, as you pointed out. But he spoke yesterday in Davos about promoting a Ukrainian peace plan and calling for stiffer sanctions on Russia. This does seem in contrast with his comments previously on all trips, appealing for money. And he's reportedly running out of ammunition. They're almost in a defensive, not offensive posture now. So what do you think is happening there? Is there a shift towards diplomacy?
Well, I think Zelensky realizes without the promised aid from America that we committed to, without the promised aid from the EU, which they committed to, he doesn't have a lot of cards to play. So the idea of going into some kind of negotiations with Zelensky without the ability to kind of protect the front lines or to do any offensive action is not a great hand. It's why we need to step up and put this commitment forward. And Andrea, I've said on your show before, for about 3% of the last 2 years' defense budget and the money we've already given to Ukraine, Ukraine has basically taken out about 80% of Russia's ground military capabilities. On a pure America self-interest argument, that's a great return. And to give him the additional resources he needs, both to maintain the battlefront, but to also be stronger in leverage if he chooses to negotiate with Putin, I think that is in America's national interest. And I actually believe, I know this has been tied into the border understanding, and I think great progress is being made there. But I hope everybody can take yes for an answer, because I think this would be a huge blot on American honor if we reneged on this commitment to Ukraine, when so many of us in both political parties said, we will stand with you.
Let's talk about the Middle East for a moment, because Secretary Blinken, as you know, was in the region. The Arabs, Saudi Arabia, is now proposing to rebuild Gaza after the war, help create a Palestinian entity, a reformed Palestinian entity to govern and secure it, if Prime Minister Netanyahu will agree to a Palestinian state, something that has been part of Israeli and U.S. policy, as you know, going all the way back to Camp David, but certainly since Oslo and since 1993 at the White House with the signings. So what can you and other leaders in the Senate do about trying to overcome his resistance, perhaps? There's U.S. pressure, but so far, I'm told by U.S. officials and other officials that they don't expect this to happen. A real chance, it's a long shot, but a real aspirational chance to reshape the Middle East without him agreeing or with, in a post-Netanyahu coalition.
Andrea, I just led a bipartisan group of senators to Saudi Arabia, Jordan, and Israel. And we made the case to the Israeli government, you've got to get more aid to deal with the humanitarian issues in Gaza. You've got to go ahead and pay the Palestinian Authority who oversees the West Bank, or you're going to have another front in that war, because the Palestinian Security Services, which is keeping a lid on the violence, they might all quit. And the fact is, I think for a while the current Israeli government thought, well, they could maybe ignore the Palestinians. If they did these individual deals with the Sunni states and Saudi Arabia, they could just somehow ignore the Palestinians. After October 7th, that is not the reality. And we found from Israeli forces in the intelligence community and the defense community, they understood that. I'm not sure all the members of the Israeli government understand that. Our support for Israel remains strong, but we've got to have a partner in the Israeli government that realizes that you could lose a generation of American support if they don't think about conducting this conflict in Gaza in a different fashion. And the chance of having, out of this crisis, some level of regional alliance between the more moderate Sunni states and Israel in a trade and defense alignment, that is a possibility coming out of this, but only if there's also a future for a Palestinian state. And unfortunately, right now, the current Israeli government has allowed so many settlers into the West Bank that it's really hard to see how the West Bank being chopped up as much as it is without some pullback of those settlers, that you could ever get a Palestinian state there and aligned in some way with Gaza.
Well, we know that even after you left and made those arguments, days later, Secretary Blinken was there, and he was rebuffed by the prime minister, which doesn't mean everyone in the Israeli government, as you know. Do you think that there's any way that Netanyahu would move, or does this have to await a post-Netanyahu government?
Well, listen, I think what a couple of the members in my delegation made clear is we support Israel. But that doesn't mean we support every Israeli politician that candidly may or may not have, the interest of peace, the interest of ending the violence top of mind. I clearly know in Israel, for many folks, it feels like October 7th was not 100 days ago, but it was yesterday. This is a country that has been deeply scarred by the Hamas terrorist attack. But they also have to realize, as a supporter of Israel, unless we can show aid to the humanitarian struggle of the 23,000 Gazans that have lost their lives and literally hundreds of thousands more that are in jeopardy of starvation, unless Israel can show that face of some assistance to those individuals and some future for the Palestinians, both in Gaza and the West Bank, then the hope for any kind of regional peace goes down. And I think we have to keep applying maximum pressure on this government to recognize that reality. And frankly, I think there's an awful lot of folks in the Israeli government that recognize that as well. But there are some outliers in Mr. Netanyahu's cabinet who do nothing but stir the flames of passion against the Palestinians with some of their comments, like saying, let's try to move all the Palestinians out of Gaza. That's just, that is totally inappropriate kind of comments from some of the ministers in his government.
And very briefly, could I just ask you about the Iranian foreign minister saying in Davos that they have nothing to do with the Houthis, that they're not responsible?
Well, listen, I think the Houthis, Iran has definitely helped the Houthis. But the one thing that became clear is that Iran has these proxies, but they don't fully control. In many ways, what I heard in the region was the Houthis are not very good at governing, but they're pretty darn good at warfare because they stood up to the Saudi and UAE conflict for many years. And there are some folks in the Houthi leadership that think they are more supreme than even the supreme leader in Iran. So be careful what you wish for. This is a group that is quite rogue. I'm glad to see that America's active, and I'm glad to see that our allies did this so we didn't have to take these strikes alone.